to the Pivot10 Results and Title Commerce webinar series. This month we are doing from mission statement to marketing message, how to attract the right people with your company story. I'm Gina Tremarco, Chief Results Officer with Pivot10 Results, producing this webinar for you today. A little bit about Pivot10 Results. We are a training and strategy company. We focus on four main areas: culture curation, how to create and recreate a better culture in your organization; sales story and strategy, which we're going to touch a little bit on sales story today; team engagement, how to build a better team and keep a team together; and fantastic customer experiences. How do we continue to provide the best experiences for our customers? But enough about me. Let's talk about today's objectives. Number one, why is story so important for your marketing message? And creating and sharing your brand story and message. So let's talk a little bit about your audience. How knowing your ideal internal and external audience is a game changer for you. First, you got to identify your ideal clients. What kind of clients do you want? Who are they? What are the demographics, the psychographics, the characteristics, the personalities? And some of this is really basic. So some of you are like, yeah, we know who our ideal clients are. But here's one thing I want you to think about is sometimes our ideal clients shift a little bit. What may have been an ideal client in the beginning of a business may be very different 5 years later. I know that's happened in our own company over the years. So reviewing this on a continuous basis and just checking in to make sure that you're still targeting your ideal clients is a good exercise to do at least once a year. Where can you reach or target or find your ideal clients? What do they really want from you? What do they value? Are you paying attention to the buying signals? And there are all kinds of buying signals. And I put that in orange on this slide because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to talk a little bit about buying signals. When you really pay attention to what customers do, how they respond to you, you can get a feel for if they're interested in a product or maybe something that you don't already offer. So for example, we do a lot of training, a lot of strategy. We do a lot of coaching with small businesses. And we had a client roll off. They had been with us on a contract for some consulting for their business, and they felt like they were good to go. They were done. And we agreed. And she said on the way out, I really like it when you do that annual retreat, that mastermind that you do in October, the one where, we work on our businesses for the next year. And that is something that we do. I got away from it last year because there's an illness in my family. It's a really great time to focus on your business in October or November to get your budgets together. Most of your companies are already doing that. If you're a smaller business, sometimes you kind of slack off and don't get to it because everything becomes more important. But when you create a habit of doing that at the end of the year for your following year, it's really helpful. When we get together with clients in October, we pretty much lock them down for a couple of days as a group to get them to work on their plans. So she made that comment to me that, next time you do that, let me know. And so that was a buying signal. That was I'm done with this product and service that you offer, but I would really like another product and service that you also offer, but later. So pay attention. Are they liking things that you post on social media? Do you see that a lot? Are you watching emails when you send out email campaigns? Are you tracking that and seeing how many times someone has opened an email? I'm a little obsessive about that. Sometimes when we send out emails and I see someone's opened an email 10 times, they really like the content, or they're forwarding the content. Whatever is happening with them, I know that they're engaged. So that's a possible buying signal that they like what we're telling them. So really paying attention to those buying signals will also help you get really clear on your ideal clients. How do they want you to talk to them? What forms do they want you to talk to them? Do they want to be talked to in emails? Do they want direct mail? Do they are they on social media and that's their preference? All of that is going to really depend on your business and your ideal clients. So how to make your marketing message work. Find ways to authentically connect through story with the right audience in a way that they need you to connect to them. And what does this mean? Again, I've already alluded to that. People want you to connect in certain ways, and you have to understand what their thing is. Kind of repeating what I just said, understanding how they connect. Is it email? Is it a phone call? Is it a conversation? Is it social media? Is it your website? And doing it authentically. God, what drives me crazy is people who will send me blank emails telling me how they have these great solutions for me, but I don't even know who they are. Like, we don't even have a connection. I've never seen them before, heard of them. They found my email on our website and just, sent me a cold email. It's not really authentic. So I try to find ways to authentically connect with people by developing relationships. And that's a whole nother series on relationship-based selling. It's much more authentic to create a relationship, and you don't have to necessarily do that just face-to-face. There are other ways that you can create that authentic connection that makes people know, like, and trust you and want to connect with you. In our last webinar, we talked about creating a mission statement. We talked about knowing your why and your unique selling proposition. So this is just a quick review for those who may have listened to the last webinar with us entitled, or if you're new to the webinar series and you haven't listened to the last one, you might want to go back and listen to that. It's a little more detailed. But mission statement, a written declaration of an organization's core purpose and focus that normally remains unchanged over time and is something to be accomplished. Mission statements also serve as filters to separate what is important from what is not, clearly state which markets will be served and how, communicate a sense of intended direction to the entire organization. The thing about mission statements that drive me a little bit crazy is the confusion between mission statements and vision statements. And a lot of times people think that your vision statement is your mission statement and vice versa. Vision is the bigger, more global picture of where you want to go. Mission is really about who you are, what your purpose is. And if you're a smaller entrepreneurial business, and even larger businesses, if you think like of a Steve Jobs, a lot of times the purpose and the mission is based on that founder, on their core values. So that's something to take into consideration. And they shouldn't be super long. They should be short to the point. Here we have an example of the Pivot10 Results mission. And it is, we shift businesses from people problems to performance results. Really short and to the point. You might not totally get exactly what we do, but you kind of have an idea of what we do. It's taking, it's going from problems to results. We focus on the human capital aspect and how that impacts a business. How does, when you have not the best employees and they're not giving great service, and that hurts your customer service and hurts your profitability. So how do we fix those problems? So that's our mission. That's what we want to do to help people. So what kind of customers and clients do you want to attract, both internally and externally? And the reason why I mention internally is because in our next webinar, we're going to talk about attracting talent, attracting your internal customer, your employees. So this is important because when it comes to marketing, you don't want to just think about marketing to get your customers. You want to think about the entire brand overall, because your brand is also going to attract employees, right? They're going to be attracted to you based on the message you put out there. You see some brands out there that have had some negative behavior, and then next thing you know, people are saying, God, I would never work. I don't want to work for them. So you want to keep that in mind in your marketing message as well. On our next webinar, we're going to be talking about attracting top talent through branding and other recruiting strategies. So stay tuned for that. So what do they benefit from you? What is that benefit that you're delivering, right? For us, we're delivering results, and we're trying to attract people who have people problems, businesses that have people problems. We do have a mission statement worksheet. We did this on the last webinar. I mentioned it. Again, if you want a copy of that, we'll make that available for you to help you with your mission. Again, your company may already have this. You might be a really large organization, and this is fundamental, but it's good to revisit that and make sure that that your mission statement is up to date. And here's another example, Zappos. And I love Zappos. I spent 3 days at Zappos Culture Camp in 2016. Their mission statement has nothing to do with what it sells on its internet shopping website, and everything to do with who is buying the Zappos.com products, the customers. The mission statement of Zappos.com, also referred to by Zappos employees as their WOW philosophy, is to provide the best customer service possible. Pretty simple, and that is their complete mission. Everything that they do, the decisions that they make, when they have to make tough decisions, they always ask themselves, is this going to provide the best customer service possible? This decision we make, will that impact customer service? Are we still going to be able to give the best service? So that's another example. Again, the last webinar has several examples if you look back at that. As I mentioned, we can help you with that and give you copies of the different worksheets, specifically mission and vision. You can get one of those worksheets from us by emailing us at getresults@pivot10results.com, getresults@pivot10results.com. And if you'd like to start talking to a title representative about how to save money and reach your revenue goals on your business credit card processing, you can reach Title by calling them at 1-855-51-TIDAL, Title. We love being a partner of Title and a customer of Title. We have been working with Title for many years in our businesses. In addition to Pivot10 Results, our sister company is Carolina Improv Company. We are based in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so we have an improv comedy theater in addition to our strategy company. Yes, I said South Carolina. I personally am originally from Chicago, born and raised, and then I was recruited to South Carolina for a job, and then I started these two businesses that we have now. And I go back and forth to Chicago, but I do not miss the snow. So again, if you need any help with your business credit card processing, give Title a call. So let's talk about story. What is story? The missing link in business. Story is, you're probably like, we know what a story is, but let's just talk about it for a second. Story, a two-way process that engages and benefits the teller and the listener, and words and meaning with data tucked inside that resonates with others. That last one to me is the most powerful. Words and meaning with data tucked inside that resonates with others. People are going to more likely listen to a story than they're going to listen to all of the numbers, the financial report. You have a P&L call and you go through all the numbers, and we want to hear financially the facts, right? Those are important. But when you can add story and content and context to those numbers, people are going to tap in more. They're not going to zoom out and stop listening to you. So being able to tell a story is going to keep people interested in you. What's your story? Because story really equals marketing message. You can create your marketing message from your story. Again, people are more attracted to hearing a story than they are to the basic facts. Like, what we do for our company let's talk about Carolina Improv for a second. It's a cool story. I moved here from Chicago, moved to South Carolina from Chicago. I was pretty burnt out. I was pretty miserable. I was having culture shock. I needed an improv refresher class because I had trained at Second City, and I decided I needed a class, but nobody offered classes, and nobody knew what improv was in Myrtle Beach. It was really frustrating. So the only way I could have what I wanted, an improv class, was to go out and create it myself, learn how to teach classes, to teach people improv, to create a group of people that I could play with, and which took several years to do, but it happened pretty quickly, and then it turned into a theater inside of a mall of all crazy things. And I named the theater Uptown after the Uptown Theater up on the north side of Chicago, because I grew up in that area, and I had a business, and I would joke with people who would come to our shows, and I would say, "You're sitting in my living room in the West Loop right now," because that's where I was living before I moved to South Carolina. I lived in the West Loop in a really awesome condo, and the economy crashed, and I lived in South Carolina, and I had to sell it, and I took that money and I built a theater with it. And that's a story that I tell people about how I started my first business. It's more interesting than, and we're number one on TripAdvisor for nightlife attractions, which is a fact, but not as interesting of a story. So do you see the difference there of how story can be a little more powerful? At least I hope it is, because you might not have liked that story, and then what I'm saying doesn't matter. So your brain on story, there's neuroscience behind this. In addition to sparking mirror neurons, telling and listening to stories ignites the regions of the brain that process meaning. Why is this so important? Because humans are meaning-seeking creatures. It's not just about taking in information. We can't deliver anything without meaning to it. And this comes from Michael Wesch, a cultural anthropologist at Kansas State University. So this is neuroscience. This is scientific fact that our brains ignite better when we hear a story. And then we sprinkle in some facts to that. So let's talk about creating story. I mentioned my improv background. This is an exercise that we do with a lot of our clients. It started out as an improv game. It's called the Story Spine. You may have heard of it. It started out as an improv game. It's something that we use in our shows, and I started using it with some of our clients. It was it was accidental, which is also the beauty of improv. We experiment with a lot of different ideas. So I took this story spine exercise that we use to help create stories, to teach people how to be storytellers. And I took it in the business realm to teach businesses how to tell a story, because the reality is a lot of people don't feel like they're good storytellers because, A, they think they have to get up and talk to people, and that makes them uncomfortable, and so they automatically think, I'm not really the best storyteller. So they've already told themselves that. So we took this story spine exercise, which walks you through the formula of a story. It's pretty easy. It's 7 parts, 7 lines of dialogue to make it super simple to tell a story. Because story, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need some consequences. You need a climax. You need a moral of the story. So think about that for your business, right? There's a beginning, a middle, and end to your story of how you got into your business. And we have multiple stories in our businesses, and that's what makes this interesting. So when you are trying to have a couple different marketing messages, which you can, you're going to have, you should have different stories behind each one of those marketing messages. So story spine exercise, I'm going to walk you through that so you can get a feel for it. So this one is what I call Joe's Campground and RV Park. And we've done a lot of work in the hotel industry, recreation, RV parks, campgrounds, leisure, theater, medical, healthcare, So one of these stories are actually, I heard a story like this in a training session I did for an association's annual meeting. And we did this breakout. We spent 4 hours. What we're doing in this webinar in a few minutes today, we spent 4 hours actually helping clients carve out their stories. It's always really cool to go through this process because it's very personal for a lot of them. So Joe's Campground and RV Park is a story I'm going to walk you through. And I'm going to walk you through the structure. This is a once upon a time story structure. So once upon a time, there was a man named Joe who was so burned out from working in his corporate job, and he knew something had to change. Then one day, Joe decided to buy an RV with his wife and go camping to get away from it all. And because of that, he realized that spending time in nature with his family allowed him to see what was most important to him, creating memories. And because of that, Joe thought all families needed to do more of this type of activity. And then finally, Joe decided to quit his job and buy a campground and RV park. And ever since then, Joe has been marketing his campground to corporate executives to help them reconnect with their families. And the moral of the story is, creating memories is the best way to create legacies. Pretty cool story, right? So let's back up a little bit. I can't back up. Okay. I can't back up in this presentation. So, but here's what the story spine looks like. Once upon a time, then one day, and because of that, and because of that, and then finally, ever since then, and the moral of the story is. So, once upon a time is that situation, the current situation of what's going on right now, and who's the hero or heroine. And it's Joe, right? Joe needed a break. And he got an RV and went on vacation and fell in love with the camping world and RV world, and decided that this is what he wanted to do basically, and buy a campground and help other families create memories, right? And so this is a true story. Actually, it's a true story for several people at this one association event that we were at. It was a RV and campground group. And many of them had gotten into the business because that was their why. That was their personal why. That was their purpose of why they were in this business, was because they wanted to have the same impact on other people that was impacted onto them. Pretty cool story. But if you look at what the moral of the story was, it was about creating legacies and creating memories. And that right there, the moral of the story becomes the marketing message. That becomes a much cooler story than, hey, come to our campground. Instead, the story is create memories and legacies. That's a little more powerful than the fact that you can go to a campground. So, when we do this exercise live with people, it can be challenging. Because they look at me and they go, I don't know how to come up with my story. I have so many stories, and you just walked me through that story. It's fine. I really don't know how to come up with my story. Another exercise that we do along with that is the message backstory. What is the backstory? What is your backstory? What goes into the story? So how do you come up with your story? Again, we have a worksheet for this as well. We have a backstory worksheet, and we have the story worksheet. We have both of those. They go hand in hand, so we can get you copies of those if you want to play with this and play with multiple stories. So how do you come up with a backstory? This is kind of what I zone in on. The worksheet's more extensive than this, but I think these are the highlights, and I pulled these out of the worksheet. Triumphs, tribulations, excitement, irritations, and purpose. When you're looking for your backstory to help you create your story, you want to ask yourself, what are some really great successes and triumphs that I've had? What are some tribulations? What are some hard times? Usually people's stories come out of their hard times. Something really bad happened to them, and they were able to rebound and turn things around, and that is what created their purpose or why they're doing what they're doing. It takes some time to soul search on this. As a company, we could talk a little bit about that offline and how you would look at your company's backstory if it's not your personal backstory as a founder. What have been the triumphs and tribulations of your company? What has happened over the years, because companies evolve. People love to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. Both the good and the bad inspire people, right? They like to see people win. Sometimes we like to see people lose. And it's not because, we're excited that they're losing. You want to cheer the underdog. So bad stories that turn around are also pretty inspiring. What excites you? What are things that get you so excited? What are you committed to? What is your company really excited about and committed to? And that ties right into core values. Same with irritation. So what irritates you? What excites you? Both of those areas tie right into what do you stand for? What does your company stand for? And then, of course, that goes hand in hand with purpose. So when you really know what you stand for, and what excites you and what irritates you, and you know what your core values are. One of our core values is it's honesty and transparency and trust, all kind of wrapped up in one. Nothing irritates me more than people who lie and deceive. It makes me crazy. So that's a core value. And recently I interviewed someone we have a podcast called The Pivotal Leader at thepivotalleader.com. And I interviewed a woman who owns a recruiting company in London, and they have offices in New York and Florida. And she said one of the things she does when she's recruiting, and we'll talk about this on our next webinar, is she asks a very specific question. Have you ever told a lie? She said, because if they say no, I know they're lying, because everyone's told a lie. And if they say yes and then they say what that lie is, that also gives you an idea of who they are as a person. When you can't trust people in your organization, in my opinion, this is, again, my core value, it's not going to work. So the reason why I share this is because part of my story and our company's story is going to tie back to those things that we really stand for. So knowing what you stand for, knowing your successes, your failures, and why your company does what it does will help you create that backstory. What are some real events that have happened over time that can play into your backstory? Of course, if you have questions about this one gets tricky. I am always available to help. You can email me directly, Gina, Gina, at Pivot10 Results, and I can help you with that. I stuck the story spine in there again, just as a review. So if you wanted to see it, but again, I can get you a copy of this. So sharing your message. So where are you going to share it? So you create you know what your story is, you create your message from it. Again, I think the best way it's that moral of the story, which becomes the marketing message from the story. Where are you going to share it? You're going to, you want to get really specific with it on your website, social media, forms of advertising, word of mouth, referrals. How are you going to share your story? My husband owns a construction company, actually sunrooms and pool and ice, and his sales team often, they're in the middle of a new website design, but his salespeople have often asked him to put his personal story on the website, because when they meet with clients, they tell his personal story about how he got into the business because they think it's a cool story. And it puts a human feel to the company. They're not just another company. They're a family-owned business taking care of other families, both customers and employees, and they love telling that story. So putting it on a website can be really powerful for people. Leaking it out into social media, showing who you are. There was another group that we worked with, a hotel group, and one of the stories was this really cool hotel in California that had like a recording studio in it and a lot of really great a lot of the great musicians of our time had, like, at some point used the studio in that hotel. And that was the story that came out of this exercise. And they went to go put it on the website because it's such a cool, powerful story. Like, why wasn't that evident? Why wasn't it on the website in the first place? Because that's a cool story for people to say, ooh, I want to stay there because that's cool. So just, wrap your head around where are you going to share your story and your message. And who's going to own it and stay consistent with it. So you don't want to just share it once on the website and never do anything with it. So you need to, have a steward. I guess we'll call it a story steward. Ooh, I just came up with that. You want someone to own it, a marketing manager, a marketing director. A lot of smaller businesses, you might not have that. So is the owner going to do it? Or do you want to empower somebody else in the organization to be in charge of sharing the story? So today was pretty quick and simple. We reviewed what we talked about in the last webinar with knowing your why and unique selling proposition and mission. And today we looked at why story is so important and creating and sharing your brand story and message. That was our goal today. And I mentioned a couple times, if you want any of those worksheets to help you in your business for mission, the story spine, the backstory, or you need any help in any of those areas, please give me a call or drop me an email, Gina, or get results at Pivot10 Results. And
my phone number is 843-597-6393.
Visit our website at pivot10results.com. And of course, if you need any help in your business credit card processing, of course, Title Commerce is the company you should be going to. They're awesome. They have an awesome culture, and they have a super awesome story. And if you haven't listened to, we did a webinar, a podcast. We did a podcast with CEO Drew Menta several months ago. And his story is really cool and how Title Commerce came to be. So you might want to go listen to that at thepivotleader.com. Again, if you need any help from Title, give them a call at 855-51-TIDAL, Title. And next month, we will be doing attracting top talent through branding and other recruiting strategies. I look forward to bringing that one to you. And thank you so much for your time and for listening today.